In this episode, I'm going to cover the Playboy Gangsta Crips and some of their rivalries with other hoods. The Playboy Gangsta Crips are located on the west side of LA and have been around for over 40 years. Playboys are rivals of some Crip hoods like the Schoolyard Crips, the Geer Gang Crips, the Venice Shoreline Crips, and the Neighborhood Crips, with them being aligned with the Gangsta Car. Playboys are allies of gangs under the Gangsta Car like the A-Trade Gangstas, the 5-1 Troubles, and the Broadways, just to name a few. Now I'm going to talk about incidents involving the Playboys and several rivals. This first case happened on July 12th of 2000. Sylvia called her boyfriend Charvez to tell him she was having car problems. Charvez arrived to her home, which was in Geer Gang turf, and began to work on the car. After a few minutes, Sylvia heard several gunshots. Sylvia went outside after the shots to see Charvez's shirt filled with holes. Charvez was shot 11 times, and he would lose his life. There would be over 3 witnesses who were outside when the shooting happened, but they all feared for their lives, so they didn't want to be involved or testify at the time. It wouldn't be until 6 years later in 2006 where the case would be reopened, when detectives went to Folsom Penitentiary to question an inmate named Anthony on another shooting. He would say William, who was from Geer Gang, shot Charvez, who was from Playboy Gangsta Crip. Anthony even picked William out of a lineup. Police later contacted 3 witnesses who seen the shooting. They picked William out as the shooter and later testified. William would be sentenced to 50 years to life. April of 2002, a Playboy member named Tizell was shot, and he would lose his life. But it wasn't from enemies. It was from other Playboy Gangsta Crips. 2 Playboys, Chris and Cedric, did the mission, after Tizell was said to be no good by the OG Playboys. So Chris and Cedric was sent to handle it. Chris would tell his girlfriend about everything about what happened. He would say it was him and Cedric, and they chased Tizell down, and Cedric finished him off. Chris' girlfriend would later go to the police, and she would testify. Both Chris and Cedric were charged with the shooting. Chris and Cedric are both eligible for parole in the near future. October 27, 2003. On Gar Street, a woman heard from her home a scuffle in the alley. She then seen a Hispanic man run to the alley with a rake. Then minutes later, she seen a Playboy member named Jamar walk out the alley, then run back shooting. The Hispanic man with the rake told the police him and some friends walked in the alley when they got pressed by the Playboy members. The Playboys asked him where they was from. When they replied Mexico, he said the Playboys stole on him and started whooping them. So he ran out the alley and got a rake as protection. But as he was coming back, he heard shots and ran the other way. The police would later determine that the Mexican men were from DIMF, a Mexican gang in the area. December 8th, 2003. A man named Brian was driving his car at the intersection of Cadillac at 5 p.m. As he stopped at the light, he looked in his rearview mirror and seen a man standing in the middle of the street behind his car. The man would begin shooting at Brian's car. Brian would drive away, and no one was injured. January 2nd, 2004. At 1 a.m. between Jefferson and La Brea, a security guard would see a man shoot a man 5 to 6 times. The victim would lose his life. Just 30 minutes later, a man named Garfield was walking about 1:30 a.m. He would hear shots, then hid. He soon walked out of the place he hid thinking the shots were done, but seeing a man standing in front of him. He would then be shot 8 times, but he survived. January 7th, 2004. A woman will call the police and say she seen a man trying to hide something near her apartment. The police would come, and the man was Jamar. He was detained and the gun he tried to hide. Jamar was placed in YA. While in YA, all the shootings would be traced back to the gun he was caught with. He would admit to all the shootings, but say they was all in self-defense against rivals of Playboys who tried to harm him. Jamar would end up being sentenced to 75 years to life. Months before November 2nd, 2005, PAL, a Mexican gang, had tagged up Robinson Park. For that, they got whooped on by Playboy members. So on November 2nd, 2005, Robin and Shane and 3 other men were kicking it at Robinson Park around 10 p.m. They will all be approached by 3 Mexican men, one who wore a blue bandana to cover his face. Robin and Shane recognized 2 of the men, but not the one with the mask. People would rob and Shane would ask the man with the blue bandana why did he have it on. He would give no reply. Robin would call all three of them busters and say that's why his little Playboy homies whooped on them and arrested PAL. The three men walked away, then one of them would fire at Robin, but the gun jammed and Robin would take off running. They managed to shoot 5 times at Robin, but missed every single one. 2 days later, they would be picked up by the police after being seen hanging out in the park. Eli and Ephraim would be picked up and they would be questioned. They would say the Playboys mocked them for months prior for tagging at the park, so they were there just earning their respect by getting revenge for the disrespect Playboys did to them. Eli and Ephraim received life for the shooting. This last case will be about 2 Playboy Gangsta Crips and what they did in a few weeks. May 21st, 2012. Hopeton and Kevin would see a man and his girlfriend walking. They jumped out and asked him where was he from. They will tell him this is Playboy and knocked him out and took all of his stuff. His girlfriend would later pick them out of a lineup. June 4th, 2012. Kevin and Hopeton drove in Kevin's girlfriend's Lexus. They would later be in a car with other people. They would later park near a man named Oscar and his girlfriend's home. Oscar and his girlfriend were in the car at the time. Oscar's girlfriend walked in the home and Hopeton would approach yelling, "Shoreline Crip gang," to see if Oscar was from Shoreline. Oscar would approach Hopeton, saying he lives in the neighborhood, but he's not a member of any gangs. Hopeton quickly shot Oscar in the face. He hopped back in the Lexus, and him and the rest of the car celebrated like they got an official member. Hopeton and Kevin would later tell another Playboy member named James how they did it, and who was the shooter, and who was there. They will also be involved in a shooting on Clemson Street, that same night where an apartment complex got shot up. James was picked up for the shooting, while Oscar lost his life. He would give up Hopeton and Kevin, and say they were the shooters. He would even name every person who he was told was there. One of the other people in the car was a woman named Nicole. She told everything that happened from both shootings. Oscar's girlfriend would testify saying Oscar was a youth preacher and never had any history with any gangs. She picked Hopeton as the shooter. This was a big case, so Kevin and Hopeton got thrown in the book. Kevin received 53 years to life, and Hopeton received 90 years to life. This will conclude this episode. If you haven't already, check out my previous videos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.